Hi, this is Between Two Drinks, brought to you by the Kevin York Communications staff. I'm Kevin York.
And I'm Kayla Gonzalez. Nice to see you guys all again.
So this week my drink is a Scottish ale called Robert the Bruce, and it's from Three Floyds Brewing in Munster, Indiana. This is actually the first craft beer that I think I ever had. When I was in college, I tried it, which is funny because later I learned that Three Floyds is one of the top craft breweries in the U.S. So it's kind of crazy that one of the first craft beers I had was from them. But it's a Scottish ale, which means it's a little bit maltier than it is hoppy. You still taste a little bit of hops, but it's definitely heavier on the malted side with some roasted malts, which they don't get crazy with it. You don't get the smoky taste of a Roach beer or anything, but it gives it more like almost like a chocolate taste, but it's good beer. So if anybody's able to get their hands on Robert the Bruce or any Three Floyds beers, I would definitely do it. I think it's kind of hard to get outside of the Midwest. I had my sister and brother-in-law bring this to me when they visited one time. So cheers.
Cheers. Well, I have today the St. Arnold Art Car IPA. And it's actually, the brewery is St. Arnold. I chose this one. This is actually the first time I've ever tried it. And I chose it because it's, again, another Texas beer, and I felt that I should kind of stick with that theme since I'm back in Texas in my home state. And I actually really like it. And the other reason why I chose it is, if you can see the can, I actually really liked the art style on the can. So that was another reason why I chose it. I was like, hey, that looks pretty good. Pretty cool. It's got to taste pretty good too. So, and it does. It's got a blend of both old and new hop varietals, and at initial taste, it has this blood orangey taste, and then you get a little hint of mango and other tropical fruits to it. So, I think I tend to like the crisp, kind of refreshing style beers, and it's right up my alley. So, also very delicious.
Nice. Really embracing the Texas lifestyle, huh?
Oh yeah. I have to. It's in my blood.
And a nice contrast today with the maltier beer that I'm drinking and the hoppier one that you've got.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like, the Boston versus Texas kind of makes sense, maybe.
Well, cheers.
Cheers to you. Well, jumping into our hot takes, I heard recently that over the last several months, some media companies like Condé Nast and Vice Media have been diving into this new virtual reality technology, and they've basically been using it as a new way to do some storytelling and as a potential for selling ads coming up. And what I think this means for brands is that, moving forward as the technological advances progress, and I think this means that this could really represent a new way for all brands to bring the audience into the story and showcase their company in a whole new way. I mean, of course, once it's monetarily feasible for all brands.
Right, that's the big key.
Exactly. Of course, Condé Nast and Vice Media can do it, but we'll just have to let them see how it goes and make it easier for everybody else.
Yeah, it's interesting, that thought of bringing the reader or the consumer directly into the story more than telling them a story.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, my hot take today has nothing to do with marketing at all. When I think of hot takes, I usually think of what's on the top of my mind. And the top of my mind today is the pitiful performance that the Boston Celtics turned in last night against the Hawks. It's a sad and a sad day for me here, because it's realizing that though this only puts them down 0-2 in a 7-game series, the series is pretty much over for them after they lost their second best player in the first game. So that's the hot take off the top of my head today. My Celtics just falling apart, crashing and burning in the playoffs after my hopes were higher.
Sorry to hear that. At least you have a beer to struggle down the tears.
That's true. Good point.
Well, jumping into our featured discussion today, so we have this thing that's happening, which I'm sure a lot of people have seen, but these big online news publishers are beginning to panic with this drop in website traffic and revenue due to the surge in public reliance on social media, and especially Facebook. And really this transition is from an internet of websites to an internet of mobile apps and social platforms, and again, in particular, Facebook. And I think what has really been driving this is the audience. You know, they're preferring to refresh their social feeds and apps instead of going to multiple different websites and different links on their websites. And it makes sense. It's quicker, it's easier. They're probably already on their social media apps like Facebook and Twitter, you know, I don't know, probably like 80% of their day. So it really does make sense. And you know, in the first quarter of 2016, it was said that 85 cents of every new dollar spent on online advertising will now go to Google or Facebook. So it's incredible, really.
Yeah, I mean, this really isn't a surprise to anyone, I don't think, in the industry. Ad revenue's been falling for quite some time. You can see here on the screen, I have an article that we found about this. This one's from the New York Times.
I don't know that we can see it quite yet, Kevin.
That's why. Now you can all see the article I'm talking about. But this is just one example, and we've been seeing it for some time. And Kayla, like you talked about, it really comes down to how we use the internet that has changed. People don't go to websites as much anymore, especially with such a rise in mobile use. People are using apps, people are using other things to get their news, and it's just kind of easier to navigate that way. I think the other thing that publishers and brands really, especially because back in the late 2000s when the hot thing was for all marketers to tell brands that you need to act as a publisher, you know, brand as a publisher. Look at what the New York Times is doing. You need to act as though you're your own magazine or your own newspaper and think of your content and plan from that perspective, which still works, but I think kind of what happened was as apps took off, a lot of marketers and brands didn't adjust to that. So rather than realizing, you know, people want to be on Facebook and they want to stay within Facebook, we kept trying as marketers to drive them away from Facebook. Click on this link, go to our website. We're all worried about conversion rates. Well, when you're stuck playing within Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or Pinterest, not Twitter as much, but the other ones more so, where people don't necessarily want to leave those platforms, it really takes the conversion rates down. And I think this is what the media publishers are battling now, because a lot of their ad revenue was based on traffic. So if the New York Times has a great Facebook page, the metrics that they're showing advertisers and potential advertisers, those don't necessarily align with the Facebook page. Those are all about clicks and views and visits to their website. So this is really about us as marketers having to change, number one, how we're thinking about content. Not as much driving people to a website. It's more about giving people what they want given the platform that they're using. The hub and spoke model is something that's talked about a lot, where either a blog or a website is like the hub of your content. And what you want to do is drive people from Twitter or Facebook or Pinterest back to that hub. And that's the sole goal of everything. That's where the conversion rates come from. That's not what people want now. They want something else.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to, at this point, have to try and switch over to the times, the changing of times. You know, everybody's on Facebook. We have to figure out a way as a brand to get revenue while also promoting your brand through a platform such as Facebook or Pinterest or, you know, that kind of thing.
And I think the publishers are even a little bit farther behind than we want to realize, because with the introduction of Facebook and their chatbots last week, this is taking things a step further now. So here's my Facebook feed. I was experimenting with it. So I started following CNN's chatbot. For people who don't know, it's kind of an extension to Messenger, where people can now follow and interact with brands, publishers, organizations rather than just individual people. So there are a lot of people that you may use Facebook Messenger with. Now you can use it with CNN or ESPN or Lyft.
Yeah, yeah. It's awesome. Well, we'll see what happens in the near future with all of this.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. So I think as the chatbots continue to take off, then it'll be something where brands need to adjust even more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to it, and it'll be good to see what we can do with our company going forward with all of our brands as well. So
definitely. Well, thanks for tuning in this week, and until next week, Kayla, I'll see you then.
until next week, cheers.
Cheers.